What is the difference between optimism and hope? Hey, I'm Adam Glendie from the Pursuit Counseling. Today I want to talk with you about optimism and hope. Arthur Brooks is a predominant social scientist and author. You might have seen him on Oprah. He's been an advisor to the president. And Arthur Brooks talks about the distinctions between hope and optimism and give you a couple concrete examples that can help you understand the distinction of the two. So I like to say that I work really hard to be positive, and my positivity is actually founded within hope. And that's why today I want to talk with you about the distinction between the two of them. There's a big difference between the nature of expectation. Optimism has a general expectation that good things will happen in the future. It's an attitude of positivity and outcomes, and usually it doesn't have a concrete basis. Hope, on the other hand, according to Brooks, it's more profound. It involves not just expecting good things, but having a clear, actionable plan and the motivation to achieve the specific goals, even in the midst of adversity. What about foundation and reality? Optimism can sometimes be unrealistic. Maybe it's rooted in a positive outlook where it overlooks potential obstacles and challenges. Maybe when people say, well, today's going to be a good day and I'm going to the DMV. The jokes about the DMV are there for a reason. It's really hard to be optimistic about going there. However, hope, it's more grounded in reality. So when Brooks talks about hope, he acknowledges the difficulties and challenges, but he remains focused on overcoming them through concrete steps and resilience. My silly example about the DMV, I know I can have a successful experience at the DMV if I'm prepared every time it comes for license renewal season. I'm not going to be positive about my experience, but my goals are shifted to a successful experience because I have everything that I need in order to accomplish my goals. The third point that Brooks makes is about the role of agency. In optimism, sometimes our goals can be really passive, and that's relying on a belief that good things will naturally come to pass. The example I like to use in this one, and Brooks uses this example too, is about when prisoners of war, when they're hoping that they're going to be released by Thanksgiving, then Christmas, and then New Year's. It's not really founded on anything concrete, where hope is active. Brooks describes hope that it requires personal agency and effort. It's about taking control of your destiny and working toward a better future with a sense of purpose and determination. With that same example about prisoners hoping that they're going to be released on certain markers of the year, with hope, it can be, well, here's what I can do within my limited control to get from now until Thanksgiving. Here's what I can do from Thanksgiving until Christmas. And here's what I can do from Christmas until New Year's. It's bound by your active participation in the process. The next point that Brooks discusses is emotional impact. In optimism, it tends to generate feelings of positivity that can improve our mood in the short term. However, much like my example about prisoners of war, if the outcomes don't meet expectations, it's going to lead to disappointment. In that example that I used, the expectation that you're going to be released by Thanksgiving, well, you could have a lot of optimism, but then by Christmas, well, the expectation is going to be a little bit less, and then by New Year's, even further less, and so it degrades. So there's an emotional impact of that. Where hope, on the other hand, it provides deeper emotional resilience. Brooks, he argues that hope sustains individuals through the hardships. It provides a stable foundation for emotional well-being, and we're given actionable plans within our personal effort. Sometimes the actionable plan and personal effort is going to be on how am I going to emotionally care for myself when I'm facing something that feels out of my control. Well, I can control how I show up. I can control how I tackle a health diagnosis within what I can control. I'm going to be in charge of being hopeful that the doctors and I can collaborate on a wonderful plan of action that's going to lead to a potentially positive outcome. But I can only do the things that are within my control. And finally, Brooks talks about sustainability and adaptability. With optimism, it can falter in the face of repeated failures and prolonged adversity, like that example of Thanksgiving to Christmas and New Year's, or even in some cases, especially with prisoners of war, the following Thanksgiving, the following Christmas, the following New Year's. It can be really hard when we say, well, here we go again. All right. Well, that level of optimism is going to shrink with each passing missed deadline. And but that's because it's really hard to improve without necessarily having a plan. Where hope, on the other hand, hope is more sustainable and adaptable. Maybe the food supply or clean water supply or clean clothing supply, just basic care things are outside of our control. We can adjust our expectations within that reference of hope so that we can feel that we are in control. Hope is more practical and empowering than optimism. Now, I do have a lot of friends that are eternal optimists, and it comes by them naturally. However, with the optimists, it really is important to ground it within what is in your control and what you can do and what you can't do. So, Howard Schultz, he's the former CEO of Starbucks. And after college, he worked a ton of various sales jobs, had marketing roles, and then he joined a small coffee company called Starbucks in 1982. So Schultz, he had a vision for Starbucks to turn from a small coffee retailer into a national chain of coffee houses. But the original owners were very skeptical about the possibility of growth and expansion, as they should. Small coffee shops, they were just a couple locations here and there, but not necessarily national or worldwide coffee shops. So Schultz, he had hope for the future. And in 1987, he took a leap of faith and he purchased the company with a group of investors. And he decided that he wanted to create what he called a third place between home and work. And that third place was a great opportunity for people to get a great cup of coffee to start their day in order to help them make that transition from home to work. So through Schultz's efforts over the years, he's been able to develop Starbucks not only from that original small group of stores, but now there are over 30,000 locations, not just in the US, but around the world. So I hope that this example drives home that there were certain things that were in Schultz's control and in Starbucks's control. And by being grounded in reality, being adaptable, even during the pandemic, the team at Starbucks has been able to generate and become a nationwide recognizable brand for people to enjoy coffee, not just between home and work, but it's become a staple just in culture. When people talk about stopping for coffee, a lot of times they'll say, I'm going to stop and get a Starbucks. I'm Adam with the Pursuit Counseling, and it's always an honor to bring videos to you to help you on your pursuit.